Yo guys, how's it going? Today we got that new special brew, the new support. We have Zefra Tellarknights. I've been trying this out for a while now, since the new support for the Tellarknights came out. I streamed it, but that did not go as well. I got sacked a bit and I wasn't as well versed in the combo lines here. And I changed the deck around a bit. Basically, this deck doesn't really play as Zefra-esque as the other Zefra brews. This is really more of a Tellarknight deck that utilizes the Zefras. The synergy here is that you have two Tellarknight Zefra monsters right here, and Zefrath can get you to Zefra Core, which will summon out the Thuban from Scale. And of course, we have all the Rotas in this deck. So if we're missing a piece, we have Tellarknight names. We can get our missing Scale. This thing is a warrior. It has an effect to pop a face-up monster, which can come up as well. And you have some really nice recursion and follow-up plays. I have some replays for you guys, and I'll be showing those off. So we're going to go through the card by card. We got the Duel and Lockbird. This is our secret Anti-Maxx C-Tech. The last game I'll be showing today. We'll be utilizing this. We have some payoffs here, the Renaud and the Fire Flint Lady, as well as the Living Fossil and the Infernal Arms Durandal. These are for Isolde, since we're running a lot of warriors. All the Tellarknights are warriors here. We only have the Constellars that aren't. Right here, this one's a beast, this one's a spellcaster, and the new, this one, the new Exceed is also a spellcaster. But it's very, very easy to go into his old. I'll get to it later, right? But basically these are the four payoffs for it. This one gets summoned off his old and adds back one of the equips that we dump. And we can search this out and special it, so Isolde makes Appaloosa by itself. Then we have some board breakers here. Kurikara, really good into Kash, good into Pearly, good into some other decks. Sometimes it's dead, so we're going to be running one of these and Small World, so we can search it out. This is like running one of Evenly, Lightning Storm, and then running 3 Triple Tactics Thrust. It's basically the same thing. You just get to search whatever board breaker you're missing. If you need kaijus or anything, right? Also, it bridges some stuff because it's has a 1500 stat line, level 1. It comes up sometimes. Then we have Sheraton. This is a brick for the new Exceed. This basically searches a Constellar. Deneb on summon searches a Tellar. This one reborns a Tellar. This one specials one from hand. This one foolishes one. It sends it from deck to grave, right? This one is basically Pot of Avarice. You shuffle back 5 Tellarknights from your graveyard into your deck, draw a card. Really good for the grind game. And we have the Petting Sasur. Pretty funny, but this is a free level 4 special summon. And it's a really, really good small world bridge because of the attribute lets it get to Zefrath. The level lets it get to your Tellarknights. The fairy lets it get to Kurikara. So this card does so much more than you'd think at first glance. The Caduceus is the payoff for the Sheraton. You get to special it out for free and add the new continuous spell. Alteran can revive itself from the graveyard and pop cards. This also comes up in the Scythe Lock. I'll get to that in a bit. Lyran is a new support card here. Basically, if you normal summon a Tellar, you get to special this, and then you get to, if you summon it any which way, you get to add a Tellar back row. So this one or the Skybridge. So we're usually going to be getting Skybridge because we have the Caduceus to get to this one. Then we have Pankratops, good board breaker, good small world bridge, free body, pretty good card. Get to the Zefras. We have 3 of the low scale. That's also a warrior. And we have 1 of our high scale. We have 1 Zefra Core to summon out this thing. We have 1 Zefranu to search for a counter trap. We got the 3 Zefrath, of course. Rhoda to search basically anything in your deck. Our Zefra Rhoda. Small World to search more stuff. Oracle Zefra to search more stuff. And our Isolde payoffs. This one reborns level 4 monster, but it gets banished when it leaves the field. The alternative is the Durandal here. This one basically just searches for a Fire Flint Lady to make Apo. So if you want to link off the body, you would get Durandal back for Fire Flint Lady. If you want to make an Exceed monster, you get the level 4. And the cool thing is, since it doesn't go from, it doesn't leave the field, right? And go to the graveyard and instead get banished, because it goes from field to being equipped as Exceed material, and then it goes from Exceed material to the graveyard. So it doesn't leave the field, which is like just a ruling kind of thing, but it means that whatever you reborn, if you make an Exceed out of it, it doesn't actually get banished. So that's really cool. So we just get a free body basically. Also a new support card. If you activate it, you get to reborn a Teller from your graveyard or summon one from your hand, which comes up in some lines as well. And this lets you, it's basically a rank up magic on the continuous effect. Once per turn, you get to rank up or rank down using a Teller Exceed that you control. This card right here bounces a Tellarknight and then summons a Tellarknight with a different name from your deck. Be careful, this does not work on Constellar cards. It works on anything that's treated as both. So the Alteran is a Tellarknight and a Constellar. Then you have Exceed as a Tellarknight and a Constellar, but things like the Sheraton or the Caduceus can't be targeted by this. And what's important to note is also you have the locks in this deck. We also have the Divine Strike, of course, right? But the locks in this deck, the monster that gets special summoned by this effect locks you into Tellarknight monsters while you control it. The Alteran locks you into attacking only with Exceed monsters if you revive it. And the Altair locks you into attacking only with Tellarknight monsters if you use its effect to revive something else. To the extra deck, we have the Deltaros. This takes 3 materials normally, but you would make this by using Tellarknights. I'll get to that in 1 second. Basically, if this leaves the field, you get to summon a different Teller from the deck. This is the only non-hard once per turn card, so in your deck basically. So what this does is you make this, you link it off into Isolde, you chain block it by just adding follow-up off the Isolde with the first effect. Then you get back the Altair, and then the Altair can revive this, and then you can just link it off again. And then you summon another guy, which is either follow-up or often the Sirius to put the stuff back so you can play more on the next turns, get a draw. That's pretty nice. We also have the Triver. This is pretty cuttable. It came up once for me. It's so cool when it does. Basically, you can only summon this in a turn where you only summon Tellarknights, but you can summon this on their turn, and then it bounces all other cards on the field to the hand. It also has like a hand rip effect and stuff. You basically try to make it on their turn to bounce their whole field. Very good into back row matchups. Here are the reason the deck is so nutty now. We got the Ptolemaeus back. This used to be banned. This has 2 effects. One of them is you can detach 3 materials from this card to rank this up. Unlike the Constellar Tellarknights, which only lets you summon Tellarknights or Constellars, this lets you summon any non-number rank 5 Exceed. So this lets you go into Cyber Dragon Infinity. It lets you go into the Pleiades. Lets you make, what's the other one? This one right here. This thing, we'll get to that. So this lets you rank up on their turn. And the other effect, which is really crazy, is if you make this with 7 materials, if you detach 7 materials from this, you get to skip your opponent's next turn. So that's really nutty. In the end phase, you get to attach a Stellar Knight. Careful, it's not a Tellarknight. It has to be a Stellar Knight. So no just Tellarknights, no Sat Tellarknights. It has to be a Stellar Knight. So Constellar Knights will fit to this. The Batlamus makes everything on field dark. I haven't really used the other effect since the support came, but you can also rank this up. Doesn't really come up. The interesting thing is it makes everything dark, which has synergy with the Constellar Diamond, which has a non-once per turn monster effect negate against dark monsters. So if you end on both of these guys, you get to just negate everything you want as long as he has material. This is the key card. This is like the Electromite for the deck, basically, or like the Isolde for the deck. This is like the Halqifibrax for the deck. This is what everything revolves around. You can make this, and this lets you, when you summon it, add back a Tellarknight or a Constellar card, up to 2, from your graveyard to your hand. Now, normally when you make this, the first time you're not going to use this effect. It's also really awkward, is sometimes you just can't use it, right? If you have nothing in grave, of course. Sometimes you want to mill the Alteran, and then you want to revive the Alteran with its own effect, but you accidentally use this, and then you have to add it back to hand. You just fizzle your own effect. So that's that happened to me quite a bit. Don't do this, right? What you want to use it for is you banish a Teller from your hand or deck, and then you detach a material afterwards, and then you get to copy that effect. So what's important to note is you can't actually use Altair off rip because you don't have anything in a graveyard, because you banish this first to copy and then you detach. So there's no target in your grave for you to revive. So make sure you don't fall into that kind of trap. What you're going to be doing 99% of the time is you're going to banish a Sheraton. If you draw it, kind of unlucky, but you can banish it from hand. So that's a big plus point. And you summon, you add the Caduceus to your hand, and then you get to special this out. And that adds you, then you continue a spell. So that's really cool. And the other thing is, for the line to Turnskip with Ptolemaeus, you can make this with 5 materials, and then you rank it up, and then you rank it back down again with this card. Ranking it up works by using the M7, because you can rank up any Constellar Exceed monster into this, and then you transfer the materials to this card, of course. The following effect can't be activated this turn, so it basically never comes up. The main reason you're using this is you're going to rank up anything you have into a 6, which is the M7, and then you can rank it down again, because this one only ranks up or down into different ranks. So if you want to get into the Ptolemaeus, which is a 4, from this 4, we'll have to make this as a step in between. I'll be showing you this as well. You basically make a 5 material Caduceus, make the M7 on top, and then you use the continuous spell to make Ptolemaeus, detach 7, skip their turn, and you just win the game, right? We have the forbidden Anti-Maxx tech. I'll get to this in the last game. And we have the Constellar Diamond, which has a kind of unique floodgate effect. While it has material, neither player can send cards from the deck to the graveyard, and any card that returns from the graveyard to the hand is banished instead. Comes up against some decks, pretty interesting. Has a bit of application against stuff like Pearly right now in this meta. Also kind of turns off Tearlaments. Like the main thing we're using it for is when an opponent's Dark Monster effect is activated, you just detach one, negate, and destroy. Not once per turn. And the Batlamus makes all face-up monsters on the field dark. So you can just basically negate anything they have as long as you have material. Of course, we run Zeus because we're an Exceed deck. Zeus is so good. Kind of awkward since we're also a Pendulum deck. But at the same time, this card is just too good to give up. Isolde lets us chain block the Deltaros, as well as searching follow-up. You can run a slightly larger Isolde package where you add the Draco Slayer Ignis, the Draco Slayer Majesty, Pegasus, and Secret Village, as well as an Ignite low scale. This will let you search the Secret Village consistently off of just making Isolde, which is pretty powerful. It's kind of awkward with our scales though, and you do introduce like 4 more bricks into the deck. So I felt it was pretty win more in testing, because I would also lose more often just by drawing the cards I don't want to see. So I actually cut this. The other thing I cut was the Scythe package, where you have the Dagda in the extra deck and the Scythe in the main deck. I hated drawing the Scythe, of course, and the extra deck is kind of tight. So I cut the Dagda for the Durendal for testing it, and this just felt a lot better. Basically, you can make Dagda, set the Scythe, and then on their turn, you'll be using Ptolemaeus to rank up into anything, usually Pleiades for another bounce. and then this will trigger the Alteran to revive itself and pop your Scythe. That way you get it out in their turn to Scythe lock them. Definitely worth considering, but it just felt kind of bad this meta where Labyrinth doesn't care about it. Kash still puts up a board for no reason whatsoever, even though they're supposed to be an Exceed deck. Mikanko plays through it. So it felt kind of awkward. I'd rather just focus on turn skipping or building a board with negates and pops instead of adding some more bricks, and I'd prefer the more utility. IP, of course, you can link off any of your stuff, nothing locks into Exceeds. Such a good card here. Also lets you get rid of stuff like Delta Row sometimes. Appaloosa is just good. You can make a 3-mat Appo just off making Isolde. You can make it on their turn with the IP if you see, oh, this checks their deck completely. Or we also have the Goddess, which instead of Unicorn as a target, because this also is our only way of outing Towers monsters. All right, now without further ado, let's hop right into the replay. All right, for our first game, I'm just going to be showing off the turn skip. This was one of my earlier games, so I'm pretty sure there's a better line to get there where I also end on something else, but this is definitely just enough at this point. Here we're showing that the Petting Susur is just such a good small world bridge right here. We're getting the Deneb to add another body, and here Zefra adds Zefra Core, which lets us summon out the Zefra Thuban. Now Deneb gets us access to the continuous spell by adding the Lyran to hand, which we're going to commit our normal summon for, since we didn't need to before. And since we have the spell here, we will make a 5 material Caduceus. Nice new summon animation. Gonna activate this. We don't have anything in graveyard. And here's the part where we rank up into the M7, and then we can use the continuous spell to rank back down into the Ptolemaeus. Now we have 7 materials on this. Detach all of them right here. Now we skip his turn. And during the end phase, I'm just going to attach a guy. Don't really think this matters, to be honest. Now, as you can see, due to the card's effect, the turn is skipped. It's our turn again. Draw a card. And here we're going to rank up into Pleiades. And this will let us bounce a card on the field back to hand. So we're going to be bouncing back the continuous spell so we can activate it again. And this will let us revive someone. Just going to shuffle some guys back here. Add a guy to hand. And we're going to use this to search for our low scale. And now Zefra just adds a level 4. And we're going to pen summon here. This is just going to make our second Caduceus. Another animation. And now we can use this to add back the M7 for follow-up, which doesn't matter since we're going to banish the Deneb here. Get any guy, doesn't really matter. And we have lethal on board right here. So this is basically an FTK. Alright, in our next duel here, we're going to be playing into a Libromancer board. He sets 1, I get kind of confused, kind of happy. Maybe he has to pass. Unfortunately, he summons a guy, goes into a big combo here. And this duel is more to showcase how we can use all of our utility that we have to start dismantling boards. And what he's going to end on right here is going to be 2 unknown back row, and he's going to have a steal. Going to search for it right here instead of going for the negate. And right here, this thing. He bounces a ritual, and then he steals one of our cards. All right, so we're going to lead with the Providence. No reason not to. We're going to get the Zefrath. Here we're going to grab a low scale. Going to scale both of them. And here, the usual thing here is we send the Zefra Core. Kind of different. Usually you'd want to send the one that searches. But in this deck, Zefra Core is a super viable option. And this is where stuff starts getting a bit awkward. His trap right here prevents a monster he targets from being used as Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link material. Really awkward. So we have an out to this. basically we have 2 spells we can search here. We're gonna go to related cards. We have the Zefra Tellarknights, and we have our other spell, the, what is it, Skybridge I think it's called. It's not here for some reason. That's pretty awkward right now. But the thing is, we can search the Zefra Tellarknights off of the Lyran as well as off of the Caduceus, but we can't search our Skybridge off of the Caduceus because it's called Tellarknight Skybridge and it does not have Constellar in its name. So what you would normally do is you use Lyran to search the quick play and you use Caduceus to search for the continuous. Now, this is one of my earlier games, back when I wasn't as well versed in the deck, so I didn't know that. I prioritized the continuous spell because it's a good card, right? And we're going to end up here with having 2 of them in hand, unfortunately. We can use the field spell here since we use the Zefra. We get to draw 1, pitch 1. The Kurikara is pretty dead here since none of these do anything. So I'm thinking we can draw anything, just pitch the Kurikara, right? No loss. Unfortunately, we draw into the Petting Sis, which is just like super dead because we have a card in the graveyard. Actually, wait, I think we just detached the card to the graveyard. Didn't matter. It's not like the body mattered anyways. All right, now we're going to go add some follow-up here. We can't actually summon this turn. We're going to grab the Living Fossil here for another level 4. And we're going to pop his back row to force it out. It's going to steal our Exceed here. Now, if we did this properly to search the Skybridge, my plan was I wanted to use Caduceus to get the Skybridge. Unfortunately, it's the wrong way around, but we could have bounced the Deneb to summon another Teller from deck. And that gets around the restriction of not being able to use it as extra deck material. So we're going to have to play around this a bit differently. We're going to make the Delta Rose the hard way with 3 materials here. We get to detach the pop one. And I need to pop this because it's not going to stop me from using this as a material, I think. But I need to pop it because I want to make the Ptolemaeus for next turn. And this can chain to the Ptolemaeus, and I can't rank it up. So that would really hurt. So we have to try to get rid of this. And it turns out he has another one of these. So that's pretty awkward. Now, there is some text on this card that says at the end phase, either player's end phase, if you don't control a ritual Libromancer, send it to the graveyard. So we're going to make Goddess here, and we're just going to link it off. And we get rid of it. So if you're wondering why he didn't target any of my guys to make a second monster not be able to use this material, it is a hard once per turn here. So he just hard opened 2 copies of this. Pretty awkward running 2, but it's their choice. It almost caught me out, so happens. And here, right here, we're going to make the Ptolemaeus. Remember, we have to detach 3 materials to rank up, but we only have 2 materials. Fortunately, he has an effect to attach a Tellarknight. A Stellar Knight from our extra deck here. So now we get to rank up here. This is still negated from Goddess, since Goddess negates all monsters on the field permanently that your opponent controls. I'm going to ritual summon here by tributing this guy. And now we want to start off with our disruption. So he gets the pauper back row. Kind of unfortunate. It's going to set the negate. So it bounces a ritual to negate. And here we fire the gun. We're going to rank up into the Pleiades. And this will give us the Reborn on the Alteran to pop his ritual monster. This turns off his negate. And when he tries to attack with our Exceed, we can use ours to bounce it back to our extra deck. He has a ritual monster in hand that he searched, and he can't summon it because we know his entire field. So we're just going to swing for lethal here. Alright, so this game we're playing into a big scary Kash Tira board. We run 4 outs to this. It's 1 Kurikara and 3 Small World to search Kurikara. So since we have the Kurikara, we know we might have a chance here. even though we drew the Pettingsis. Nice extender, but not a name. The Durendal, pretty awkward since this doesn't actually get to start our plays here. It's more of just an extender card or just a pitch off is old. The spell is pretty decent, but the trap is also just a brick here. And the spell does nothing since we don't have any tellers anyways. So he's going to be popping off here a bit. Alright, he's going to set 2 here. So we have to deal with a lot of stuff here. And fortunately, he doesn't make the unicorn here since he's playing around the Kurikara. So we know he's going to respect it, which means we have to try to force out all of his effects. That's the only way you can play here. So we're just going to lead off by equipping the Durendal here. Grab the Fire Flint Lady as an extender. Just special out the Pettingsis here. This does activate in the hand to summon itself. So we're hoping this baits out his Fenrir to use it on summon. We normal this Zefra Tellarknights. Maybe this uses one of his back row. Special summon the Fire Flint Lady. And this one activates as well. Renaud is the one that doesn't actually activate. That one's an inherent special if you have it in your hand. But this activates, and this causes him to pull the trigger on the Fenrir. So now Fenrir's used its effect. Rise Heart has used its effect. We just need to wait for the Shangri. And he's using it right here to lock another zone. Now all 3 of these are out of the way. Now we have to pray he doesn't toggle on. Use the Rise Heart right here with 3 materials. And fortunately, he doesn't. So we're going to tribute his whole field. And it's a free win. Or so I thought. Until I got Solemn Judgmented. Yeah, that was pretty unlucky, right? Alright, doesn't matter. We can go straight right here into our Caduceus. So let us grab another guy. And we get Solemn Judgmented again. That's also really awkward. Now, if this was properly summoned and then gets popped, we're fine because we can bring it back, rank it up into the M7, and then rank it back down into itself. And then we can use its effect again, right? Unfortunately, we can't bring it back from the graveyard since it was not properly summoned. This also isn't a name. This also isn't a teller name. So we're just going to activate this right here. Bring this back, set the trap, and hope that he somehow pops this so it goes to the extra deck before doing anything, and Divine Strike can negate it. Fortunately, never mattered. We grab the Lyran here. And since he's at 2k, we're just going to go straight into the Caduceus. Use the effect, see if it's an imperm or something. And he just scoops here since we can swing for game right now. Alright, this game showcases what we can do going first if we don't have a way to turn skip. Now, this hand looks kind of awkward. We can search for the Tellarknights, continuous spell anyways, and Zefra Providence is a hard once per turn. So the consideration here is, what do we activate first? Is it Reinforcement of the Army or Zefra Providence? Because we know if he has an Ash, he'll probably use it on the first thing he sees, right? They're both powerful search spells that can add us a lot of advantage. So I'm thinking I will use the Zefra Providence first, because if we lose access to this, like it gets ashed, right? Then it's not as bad because Reinforcement of the Army lets us continue to extend much further. So we're going to lead with this. Of course, he has the Ash. And this lets us use Rhoda to grab the Lyran here. Now, this doesn't turn skip anymore, at least as far as I'm aware. We're going to normal this. Lets us special out the Lyran, search the Skybridge, which is what you should be doing with it, for the most part at least. Go straight into the spicy animation right here. And we're going to banish the Sheraton to add the Caduceus. This will grab us the Zefra Tellarknights, which is why it's really awkward that we opened this one. But since we're not going to use it, this line, the M7 and the Tellarknights to turn skip, we're going to rank up here and then rank down into Delta Rose. This gives us a lot of advantage for free, basically. Because we get to link this off into the Isolde. Now we're going to chain link one Delta Rose to chain block. I don't know what, like Skullmeister, I guess here. Normally you'd block the Ash with it, but they already used it. And Isolde here is going to grab us another low scale, since we have another Providence to search for Zefra next turn. So we have scale set up next turn. And the Deltaros is going to bring back the Altair to bring back the Deltaros again. Here, I don't feel like we need another body off the Fire Flint Lady, so we're using Living Fossil to make another Exceed. Going straight into the Appaloosa right here, getting us 3 monster negates, linking off the Deltaros, using its effect, and I want to get the Altairan into rotation here. Now we bring back another guy here, and we Exceed off into the Ptolemaeus here. Now this only has 2 materials, but don't forget, during the end phase we get to attach the 3rd material to it, and we make sure to make the Ptolemaeus using the Altairan, because we can detach this to rank the Ptolemaeus up, and then if we make the Pleiades, we get to actually bring back the Altairan since we summoned a Constellar card, and this will give us another pop. So we make sure it's under this one, and then we'll use these 2 to go into the Batlamus to make them all dark. Since maybe this screws them up, right? Maybe they need earth monsters, maybe they need wind monsters, maybe they need a specific attribute or something. And also, we can see what they're playing, and maybe Ptolemaeus bounce isn't the best option against their deck. Like if it's Kashtira, right? What's the point of bouncing a unicorn if you can just summon it back again, right? So we could also choose to go into the Constellar Diamond right here, which gives us the dark monster effect negates. And the Batlamus makes all of his monsters dark, so we get the negate off of that. We're setting this in case he has Imperm, so we get to dodge it. And we pass turn. So we have a pop, 3 monster negates, and then either a bounce or another monster negate here with a destroy. He's going to leave a circular. There's no way I'm letting that resolve. I'm going to Apo it right here. Of course, this board also makes Scythelock, right? But I cut it at this point already. Now, I see what he's playing here. I'm not going to let the Maxi resolve. And here I decide to make the negate, the Constellar Diamond. Now, the funny thing is, if I decided to make this earlier, I actually would have turned off the Buku, since this card reads, well, this card has material, and the other player can send cards from the deck to the graveyard. So, sorry, not the Bururu. Couldn't have used its effect. But I made it a bit later. I don't think it really mattered. I was more interested to see what he sends if it has extension. But since I make this, I get to bring this guy back, pop him, we negate the Sigma, and since any monster he summons will be dark, we still have another monster negate and destroy, which is completely lethal to this deck. That's already probably completely out of extenders at this point. During this game, our opponent missequences a bit, so maybe not the best showcase, but it's still a pretty nice duel that shows how we play through multiple hand traps, board breakers, and full combo. So on summon of the Pettingsis, we see that he gets a trigger. So at this point, we already know he must have an Imperm or a Veiler, because he would have used an Ash or something else before, or at least gotten a response. Now, we're going to use this to search for our counter trap, and then we make our Caduceus here because the animation looks so sweet. And we're going to use our field spell to draw 1 and pitch 1. Now, he imperms here for some reason. If we could have made another copy of this, we could have still used the effects. So this was a bad imperm, but it doesn't matter since we can't actually extend any further. So I guess he's never punished, right? I think that the draw and the IP have more value here than sending the Durendal to make an Appaloosa. Of course, you only get the IP or the draw, right? But to at least threaten something. He goes battle phase to use evenly, so we negate this. This is another sequencing mistake of his, since he does have the Duster here, and we get to protect all our spell traps now. He's going to use the Imperm on this, and now he's Small World for the Nibiru. He drew off the top, and he goes into Circular. Now, it's a good thing I kept the draw here, because this lets us actually not die here. If I had made the Apo, Imperm would have just negated it, and he full combos here, and I die instantly. Well, I guess I lose next turn, because he just gets super fac, but it's pretty much over otherwise. So here he goes ahead and makes access code, and That's not the bad play. I think the misplay is that he pops both of my monsters. He should have popped the Exceed because I can use it next turn, which he does, good job. But he should have also popped the Zefra instead of the IP. Because the IP does nothing on the board, but the Zefra, if I draw any of my, at this point it's 10 live draws, I checked beforehand, it's the Neb to search a scale or any scale, which I have 7 left. I actually get to play this turn, right? So I draw the worst scale, but this is still fine. Now we get to use Zefrath by sending the low one back. And now we get to use his effect, pop his access code to get rid of it. And since they're both warriors, turns out the bad scale wasn't so bad after all. We get to make the Isolde here. Now we're going to search the Neb for next turn. This guarantees a body and our missing scale. And now we grab the Durandal here off the Renaud to get the Fire Flint Lady. And we make our Appaloosa here. So knowing his deck, he doesn't actually have any live draws because anything loses to an Appo Negate or it doesn't actually do anything. Like Imperm or Superfac don't lose to it, but they also don't win him the game. And any Cyberse monster just gets negated. Now we draw a second Deneb, so it doesn't really matter. But here we show off our crazy follow-up we have with the deck, and he surrenders. The last 2 duels here are pretty crazy. These are like the 2 most impressive ones, or the funniest ones at least. He's going to go into crazy combo here. He gets the top deck Allure into Chaos Switch. Gets to draw 2, get all the tokens. Now he makes the Chaos Beast, which gets some follow-up because it can revive itself during all the following turns. It's the Chaos Creator, and he has another Allure of Darkness. Now, Chaos Angel's already pretty bad for us since it's made with both attributes, so it can't be destroyed by battle, and it's unaffected by our card effects, which means we run exactly 1 out to it, which is our single copy of Underworld Goddess. Now, the single copy of Underworld Goddess is good and all against 1 Chaos Angel. The problem here is that he's going to make the second Chaos Angel right here, and this now becomes a big issue. He also gets to set 2 cards, which I can just pray aren't also Disruption. And we draw into the Droll, which would have been so nice last turn. Now we're going to just grab the Zefrath, and here we're in a Small World. Going to ditch the Droll here. Not like it matters anymore. It does nothing. Grab the Lyran. And I have 1 combo route in my mind right here, which I'm going to go into and hope I get to resolve it. It's the only way I have of outing both Chaos Angels. It's a little awkward, and it took me a bit to think of it. Fortunately, I had a bit of time until he finished his turn. Otherwise, I would have ended on even less time here. So this looks like just a normal combo route. Now, since we're not turn skipping here, we get to use the Zefra Tellarknights to rank up and rank down back into more bodies. I'm going to bring back a guy first, making sure we keep our Exceed on the field to make the Goddess. Goddess effect just for fun, honestly. It doesn't matter. They're unaffected anyways. And now we're going to rank this up into the M7. And now we're going to rank it down into Pleiades, which gives us a bounce. Now, they're both unaffected. Bouncing is backward, doesn't matter at this point. But the reason we're doing this is because we get to bounce our Goddess. This means if we don't die this turn, we can actually remake Goddess next turn to out his Chaos Angel again. Now, he call buys the Caduceus. This is actually kind of a big issue. We only have 1 left in rotation, which is kind of okay since we can probably just loop it anyways. But the problem is we can't use its effect next turn. Now here we have a choice. We obviously can't bounce his guys, right? Unfortunately. So we can either bounce the Zefra Tellarknights to activate it again next turn to revive someone, or we can bounce the Oracle of Zefra to search our missing scale. And since we have more access to getting the continuous spell back, I opt to bounce back the Oracle here. Of course, we die here, unfortunately. He swings for a lot of damage. Gonna be honest, not sure why he didn't bring back Chaos Beast. You can banish 1 light and 1 dark monster from hand and or graveyard. I guess he didn't have any light monster in hand right here. All right, so we got kind of lucky there. Draw the Neb. Really not bad draw. Pretty good, actually. And now we have Zefra Tellarknights here. We're going to normal the Neb. Grab the Lyran here. Now we're going to pen some of these guys out. And as you can see, we can use the Lyran to add our second copy here of the continuous spell. Going to put some more bodies on the field here. And we're going to make our Underworld Goddess again. So this is how you out double towers in Tellarknights. Pretty saucy, honestly. We're going to pop this. This lets him summon another Chaos monster from his extra deck, which could be a kind of an issue, but he's just going to summon Chaos Ruler here. Now, since he draws a light this turn, he can bring back the Chaos Beast, and this becomes an issue for us because it comes back with 3000 attack. He can crash one of these monsters and attack for lethal with the other. Fortunately, Goddess has the effect to also negate a graveyard summon, so we get to live here. And he can't make Baron or anything since he's locked into Dark Synchro monsters off of using the effect of Chaos Witch to summon the tokens. Now, Pankradop's pretty nutty. Doesn't actually matter this game, awkwardly enough. But we're going to summon it out regardless right here. Get that nice animation out. And we're going to use the continuous spell we added here to grab back the Deneb, grab the Altair. I'm not trying to go for lethal here because I can't. I'm locked into Tellarknight attacks only, but our Caduceus is no longer under called by. So we're just going to try to out as much of his board as possible, set up some form of disruption, and then hope we get to survive next turn and reduce this into a grind game. Since as a pendulum deck, we are pretty good at the grind game. Notice how we're not attacking with the Pank because we can't. Unfortunate. Ranking up into the M7 lets us reborn the Alteran to pop his last back row. And here we're going to exceed straight into the Ptolemaeus. And during the end phase, we're going to add another material so we can use its effect next turn. And we're making the Batlamus out of the M7 here as well. Now we have a pop here. We are going to go into the Constellar Diamond here to get more negates, since everything on field is dark, plus his deck is running dark monsters anyways. And we have a pop as well when we rank up, because we get to bring back the attached to this card, Alteran. Now he has the Chaos Space, kind of unfortunate. And he uses the Beast here to revive itself. So we rank up here at this point. Detaching the Alteran to put it into the grave. Now it sees, oh, we summoned a Constellar. Or just the Tellarknight. Not really sure which one it saw. So we get to bring it back. And he has a Jewess Worm. But fortunately, since it's a dark, we have the Constellar Diamond to negate and destroy it. So here we bring back the Alteran. And then we use its effect. And we're going to pop his Beast here. Thunder Dragon Duel could be kind of dangerous, but he doesn't have light monsters in his graveyard, so he can't summon it. And we have the Pankradop's to check it anyways. Now we just turn our monsters to attack. And now we swing for lethal. Now, as promised, we have the secret forbidden Anti-Maxx tech here. Kind of awkward since you're going second, but this is the game where I got to pull it off. I have a set card here, and we get Max Seed right here. Now, using the Droll here, kind of awkward, because we still need to search multiple cards from our deck if we're going to find the lethal here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add the Deneb and the Lyran here, which will give us some bodies, give us some follow-up and stuff. We're going to try to bait out his back row right here, which I'm guessing is going to be called by our imperm, right? Those are the most common things to set. He has a response right here, so I'm just going to figure it's imperm. So our way of playing around this right here is we make Ptolemaeus with 3 materials. And now we're going to put as much stuff as we have from our hand onto the field. You'll see why in just a second. And we're going to use Ptolemaeus' effect here to attach a Stellar Knight card, right? Now, attaching the Stellar Knight doesn't actually matter, but we're hoping that he thinks it's something else or just goes happy-go-lucky, oh, it's the end phase, got to keep him off as much advantage as possible, and fires his imperm, which fortunately he does. So what we get to do is we get to chain the other effect here to detach the 3 materials, which is why we made it with 3 materials. And now we get to rank up into the surprise artifact Durandal. Now, artifact Durandal has the effect once per turn quick effect. Yup. You can detach one material from this card. Each player with the hand shuffles their entire hand into the deck and draws the same number of cards they shuffled into the deck. Some of you might already be seeing where this is going, but since we summon this, he gets to draw a card after we summon it, which means he draws the card here, and now we can chainlink 1 to Durandal and chainlink 2 to Droll and Lockbird, meaning when this chainlink 2 resolves, neither player can add cards from their deck to their hand for the rest of this turn. Now, what about this effect, where we shuffle our hands back and then draw the same number of cards? It hasn't been negated, right? So it's going to try to resolve as much of it as possible. So both players are going to shuffle back their hands, and then we're going to draw them back, but we can't draw them back. So we're just going to shuffle back our entire hands, and then not draw anymore. Goodbye, Mr. Maxi, 7 cards in hand. Doesn't draw anything playable, and we're going to just find lethal here. The Zefra Providence, pretty saucy. We still have a big combo line we can go through, even without it, since we do have the Zefra Tellarknights here that we added last turn. This will just reborn a guy, get to rank up, rank down, everything. Gotta go a bit crazy, link off some stuff. Yeah, and he just surrenders here. All in all, I think this deck is a bit more complicated to play, for me at least, looking at it from the Zefra side of things. This deck is not as much a pile deck that is using the Zefra engine or a Zefra deck that's utilizing another engine as it is a Teller deck that is using the Zefra engine. So a lot of the combo lines are just Teller combos, and then you have Zefras for extension, for follow-up, for the counter trap, just to like smoke screen some stuff. You have a lot of rotas, it adds a lot of consistency, and it can also bluff some other stuff you're playing. You get a lot of nice advantage off of just drawing any 2 of these Zefra cards here, since you get to get 2 bodies on field right away, already do a bunch of stuff without committing anything else in your hand. I would definitely recommend looking at some combos. I would love to shout out Supernix and MetalCon here. I'll be putting some links in the description to their channels or to some videos. I'll see what looks better. Just look in the description right here, and they have some really nifty combos, what you can do with just the Tellarknight side of things. There's a lot of 2-card combos to Turnskip. You have Lyran, Unu Kalhai. Pretty sure Deneb plus Lyran does it as well, and probably something like Deneb plus Unu. Might be some other stuff I'm missing. And of course you have just big pen summons with the Zefras that also just get you into the bodies. I personally didn't like the large Isolde package or the Scythelock package. The large Isolde package, very nice against Pearly, very nice if it goes off, but I really don't like having that many bricks in this deck. We're already running 48 because there's a few cards we don't really want to see. You really wouldn't like to see any of these 2 cards. You don't really want to see the Trap off the get-go. You don't want to see the Sheraton either. And of course you don't want to see any going second cards going first, right? So running a bit more here. This means we draw less Maxi outs, but we aren't really running any. Instead of running the 6 copies of Droll, including the Small World, of course, to try to cheese them with the Durandal hand loop. and just going for maximum consistency. I think the end board is plenty strong. I showed a replay where I go into an alternative end board. That's not the Turnskip, of course. The Turnskip is just basically an FTK. It's pretty consistent with this build as well. If you don't get hand trapped, you can do it through some hand traps as well sometimes. And yeah, have a look at the videos I'll link in the description. Those will definitely help you with the teller side of things. And think of this more as a supplementary Zefra engine than a full Zefra deck. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'll be sure to try to get to all of your responses. All right, see you in the next video.